All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning. I look like I'm a little early, about 30 seconds before 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So, up there it just changed. There it just changed. So we're good to go. Hey, Bashar. Good morning. How are you today? Happy Thursday, everybody. September 30th. We are closing out the month of September. How crazy is that? That means fall is right upon the corner, right around the corner. And yeah, I don't know about you. Fall used to be, I think it still is, but fall used to be by far my favorite season of the year, especially growing up in the Midwest. That's when the leaves changed, got nice and crisp and brisk, and it made sense to have pumpkin flavored stuff. Got out here to California, and it's like uh, pumpkin spice lattes just don't have the same ring to them, and don't really make me want to have them when it's 95 degrees outside. So anyway, fall's around the corner, and it is for me. Thursday is the end of my work week. I take Fridays off, so I am on the cusp of my weekend. So exciting stuff this weekend. Give you guys a couple things coming up, and then we're going to jump into Hebrews chapter 3. Going to close out chapter 3 today. Good morning, Nona. Good morning, Ruth. How are you guys doing? Good to have you on. Good morning, John and Becky. Hello, hello. Glad you guys are joining as well. Exciting weekend because here at Rise City, we're going to have the close out of our Shining in Babylon series that I've been preaching through, and Pete did one of those as well. So excited to close that out. It's going to be a great Sunday, 9:11 a.m. So love to have you, if you're in the San Diego area, join with us for one of those services. And also, this Sunday is going to be a little different because we've got a candidate for our worship pastor position that's going to be leading us in worship. That he's coming out here to visit, he and his wife, and leading us. And Kyle, our current worship pastor, whom we love and support, and yeah, still sad to say goodbye to as he's getting ready to venture to the East Coast. He'll be here as well to help in that process, but should be fun just to kind of see. And so, if you are going to be here, hey, make Ben is his name. Ben feel extremely welcome and loved here. So, fun Sunday coming up, and hosting he and his wife this weekend. So that's what's going on in my world. Hey, Shelly, good morning. Debbie, hello, hello. John, a different John, good morning. So good to have you too. Chase, hello. Let's see who else we got hanging out. Hey, Cody, good morning. Brian, hello. So, all right. Well, I think everybody is on, or we're going to move into kind of the Bible study portion, and then we'll, yeah, go from there. So, Hebrews chapter 3, verses 16 through 19. Today, I am looking at this notion of finding no rest. Finding no rest. That's what stuck out to me. Have you ever been in that position? In that position right now, where you just kind of feel perpetually tired? I mean, that's why we've got the coffee going, right? Mm. But not tiredness physically, like that tiredness where you just feel like lethargic and despondent and just almost purposelessness, like just kind of like just there's just some of that kind of lackadaisical, like, oh, what's the point of life anyway? What's going on, right? Just kind of that unrest. There's not a vibrance or an energy or a buoyancy or just kind of a charge in your day, a pep in your step, whatever that is. And sometimes it can be completely related to just physical exhaustion. But sometimes it could be something happening deeper down within us that we need to pay attention to. And that's what I think the author of Hebrews is kind of alluding to here, or at least I think is what he's talking about. We can be conscious to consider in our own lives. If you remember yesterday, the last couple of days, we've been talking all about your ears, it will affect your heart, and how we want to be a people that listen to what the God says. We have our ears all cleaned, right, with our heavenly Q-tips, and would help our heart beat. And today, because that's the only time we are guaranteed, today is the day we need to make sure to listen, and not just to listen, but to respond and obey. And then as we keep reading, verse 16 says this is, and he's talking about those who have not listened. So he's going back to kind of the Old Testament period with the Israelites, when after God had rescued them from the hand of the Egyptians, and they've been in slavery and bondage for 400 years, and God rose up Moses as the deliverer to come, and they crossed them across the Red Sea. They get to the cusp of the promised land, but then the Israelite people begin looking back and almost having rose-colored glasses on and thinking, "Oh man, I wish we could go back there, because right now we don't have this, we don't have that, and we could have done this and that." And they kind of start complaining, and which is just baffling that you'd want to go back to slavery and a lack of freedom when you've just been rescued. But that's the account we see in Exodus. And the author of Hebrews is picking up on how they began to have a hardened heart because they didn't listen to what God had said. And I would say also they weren't grateful for what God had done. Good morning, Tom. Glad to have you on. Good morning. Says this. It says, "And who was it who rebelled against God, even though they heard his voice?" And so he's going to talk about the Israelites. So they heard his voice. They saw God's unbelievable actions as well. It says, "Wasn't it the people that Moses led out of Egypt? And who made God angry for 40 years?" 40 years. Think about that. For 40 years, it says that that God was angry, and that word angry, just like that, he was angry. He was frustrated. He was like, "Why are you not listening? I just delivered you, right?" For 40 years. And that 40 years is when they're having to make their way around the wilderness. They continue to are unable to enter the promised land. It goes on, verse 18 says, "And to whom was God speaking when he took an oath that they should never enter his rest?" It says, "Wasn't it the very people who disobeyed him?" So we see, because of their unbelief, they were not able to enter his rest. So what he's saying here is these Israelite people did not enter God's rest because they had an unbelief. They had a disbelief in what God said because they had been disobedient to what God had said. And this notion, we picked up on it yesterday, of entering God's rest, which will really be a huge focus next week as we move into chapter 4. It's when we are outside of relationship and connectivity to our great God, there is a unrest that I believe takes place deep in the soul. That we were wired for connection with our Creator. We were wired for connection. We were wired for relationship with our Creator. And God, when we are in his presence, walking in his ways, there is a rest that comes over the soul. It might not mean my circumstances are all rosy and perfect, but there is a rest, there is a peace, there is a security, there is a comfort, there is a I can breathe easy. I can trust that things will be okay because I have my God, and my God is with me, and my God is for me, and there's a rest. And when we are not in that connected place, there's a unrest that is there. There is a dissatisfaction. There is an angst. There is a something just doesn't feel right. Something feels off. I don't find myself just truly feeling like I know things are good and God is in control. Now, there's different words and different ways people might describe that, but just things feel off, and you start chasing things, trying to make things happen, pursuing things, or sometimes just getting very lackadaisical and methodical and just yeah. And what we see here is when we have not obeyed, it can bring about a disbelief, right? Our disobedience, and disobedience can be doing those things that we know we should not do, right? There are things that I think as followers of Christ, most Christians know that there are things we're called to do, and those things are called not to do. And when we pursue the things that we know we're not to do and we do them, that disobedience, one, clogs the ears, which then eventually hardens the heart. But it also, along with that, it creates just this level of unbelief that it causes you to begin questioning. Well, maybe it's not that bad I did anyway. Maybe it's okay that I did that. Maybe, I mean, who cares? And you start to get disconnected more and more. Now, sometimes disobedience isn't so much doing the things you know you shouldn't do. Sometimes disobedience is not doing the things you know you should do, right? There's this idea of a sins of commission, doing things that you shouldn't do, and sins of omission, doing things, not doing things you know you should do, right? I felt prompted to go help a neighbor. I felt prompted to be generous. I felt prompted to use words of kindness. I felt prompted to whatever, fill in the blank, but I didn't do it, right? So I heard, but I did not apply, and because of that, it's in the same category. That's disobedient versus I heard, I did apply, or I heard and I didn't apply. Those both disobedience. And so this is what the Israelites were doing. They saw God do things, and then they didn't listen to him do the next things. They just kind of just whatever, and that led to more unbelief. And when you find unbelief and disobedience is there at the core, there's a lack of rest that comes to us. There's a lack of settling in. There's a lack of feeling God is in control, feeling satisfied. And so sometimes for me personally, I'll just kind of close with this. Sometimes for me personally, like when I find myself in those lethargic, melancholy, tired, kind of cranky, and if not cranky, then just kind of just whatever, doldrums mood, I do assess, is it because I have 4 kids and a dog and a life and I'm just tired and work? Maybe. Or are there areas where my heart has kind of got severed because I just haven't been listening well, or I've intentionally disobeyed, or I've just not followed the promptings of the Holy Spirit in my life. And there is always a fallout to the fall. There's always consequences for disobedience. And it's not just I did the wrong thing, it's I disconnected my heart from the source of life. And that can cause unrest. That can cause us to have a difficulty in finding rest. And so I think it's important for us to be conscious of us accessing sometimes when I find no rest and I find life being what seems to be purposelessness around me. Perhaps that's saying something not about the world around me, but something what's happening in my world within me. And am I listening? Am I carrying out what Christ has called me to do? Or am I blatantly going against what Christ has called me to do? And if there's disobedience, there can become disbelief. And if there's disbelief, you'll find a lack of rest. Now, we'll talk more about that type of rest that God promises and the sweetness that it is, because it is something to grasp, it is something to pursue, it's something to want. And we'll see that next week in chapter 4. God yearns to give us this Sabbath rest, this Christ-like restness that we can have within him. He wants that. And so I'm praying that we would yearn for that as well, but to take hold of that and live in that. Keep cleaning out those ears, let your heart beat, and follow in step with the Spirit. And I think that you'll start to find rest, you'll start to find satisfaction, and you'll start to find vibrance, and you'll start to be more alive. The Israelites didn't get this for 40 years, and it cost them 40 years of the promised land. But eventually, when they did get it, there was a sweetness that came. I'm praying that for you, and I'm praying that for me as well. So that's what I got for you today. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Hope to see you Sunday, 9 or 11 a.m. here at Riot City Church. If you are outside the San Diego area, or you're going to be out of town or whatever, we always have the services available starting at 5 p.m. on Saturdays. So make sure to tune in for that. And then tune back in here Monday morning. We will be in Hebrews chapter 4. Hebrews chapter 4. So grateful for you all, and praying that we would have the desire and the courage to be obedient, and that would find great rest for our souls. Have a great, great day. God bless.